Welcome to the Cerner Community Behavioral Health Training Series. Today we will be learning about recovery plans. By the end of this training, students will be able to define what is a recovery plan, know the characteristics of a recovery plan, recall the structure of a recovery plan, memorize the different types of recovery plans, recall the plans completed for each level of care, and summarize the considerations to be aware of when completing a recovery plan. A recovery plan is a framework designed to guide the treatment process. It is a living document that can be adapted to clients' needs. The individual is directly involved in the plan, and it is centered on the client's input as well as that of their legally authorized representative. The recovery plan is completed and or updated when the ANZA-CANS is completed. The information gathered during the ANZA-CANS is used as a guide to complete and or update the recovery plan. Recovery plans have the following characteristics: self-determination, the consumer is the driving force of the plan; equal partnerships, professionals provide expert information but act more as coaches and facilitators; persons receiving services are active participants in the planning and delivery of their care; respect for individuals and family members. Respect is demonstrated by responding to the needs and preferences of consumers by sensitively responding to the individual's age, gender, culture, ethnicity, and tradition, and by focusing on the unique attributes of each person. Effective communication. Consumer must be fully informed about their care, including diagnoses, prognoses, alternative services or supports, and potential benefits and risk. Language should be person first rather than focused on diagnostic labels. Family participation. Family members are vital sources of information and provide critical support for a recovery process. Family involvement depending on consumers' wishes. Functional plan. The plan should be practical and understandable to provide a map for the process of recovery. It should be the focal point of all therapeutic interactions. So we talked about the characteristics. Let's talk about what it consists of. The recovery plan is a tiered layout based on the ANZA and CANS. It must consist of all the tiers to be complete. It is built in the following format: strength, then need, goal, applied strength, objective, and intervention. We will now go through each of these facets. Strengths are evidence of an individual's ability to demonstrate the capacity to act or work effectively. These include things that we are good at, such as talents, abilities, skills, and past experiences. Zeros and ones from the ANZA or CANS are included in the recovery plan as strengths. Examples of strengths from the ANZA and CANS include family, optimism, educational, vocational, youth involvement in treatment, natural supports, social connectedness, volunteering, job history, resiliency, resourcefulness, and community connection. A need is what is missing from an individual's life. Based on the ANZA-CANS domains, 2s and 3s from the ANZA and CANS are included in the recovery plan. In Anasazi, these are capitalized. How does it differ from a problem? A problem is deficit focus, a harmful situation that must be dealt with or overcome. A need is either wanted or required. It defines a goal to be achieved. Needs are best defined in relation to strengths, whether strengths we already possess or strengths we have the capacity to build. Examples of needs from the ANZA and CANS include risk behaviors, behavioral health needs, life domain functioning, family/caregiver strengths/needs, culture, psychiatric hospitalizations, and psychiatric crisis history. The goal is the long-term aim of treatment. It is what we want to accomplish. It provides the framework of what we want life to look like. Too many goals, or goals that are too specific, undermine the planning process. Goals should have the DST framework, which means detailed, specific to need, and time-based. Examples of goals include reduce/eliminate anxiety, improve cognitive functioning, reduce/eliminate psychosis, thought disturbance, improve impulse control, improve interpersonal relationships, control antisocial behavior, and access employment services. An applied strength is a strength that you already have selected from before from your ands or cans, and that you're going to apply to help you with the need that you are selecting. These are strengths that have the ability to help guide a recovery journey, utilized by the consumer to help achieve a goal. Objectives are the specific actions or events that need to take place to achieve our goals. Objectives should use the SMART framework. They should be specific, action or event that will take place; measurable, description will allow you to determine your progress toward completion and let you know when you are finished; achievable, given available resources; realistic, allow for likely success based on skills and time available; time-based, specific time period to be accomplished. Avoid statements with undefined periods of time, undefined quantities, referring to qualities, failure to specify any objective basis for the judgment made, or inferring clinical judgments. Examples of objectives include identify signs of relapse, learn/practice new coping skills, practice medication compliance, reduce interfering symptoms, identify support system, call resources for information, identify stressors, work environment expectations, learn relaxation skills, and take medications as prescribed. Interventions are the actual services provided to address the need, goal, and objective, defined by the service codes we utilize. It is dependent on the level of care determined from the ANZA or CANS. Within the intervention, identify the frequency, which is how often the service will be provided over the duration of the plan; duration, how long the sessions will be when they occur; quantity, how many times the service will be provided over the duration of the plan; server, who will be providing the service; unit, what unit will be providing the service; subunit, at which subunit will the service be provided if applicable; and the mechanism for providing the defined intervention, which is typically a required or allowable evidence-based curriculum or treatment protocol. Examples of interventions include therapeutic or diagnostic injection, 3102, lab handling services, 3301, individual psychotherapy or counseling, 3501, supported employment, 3512, CBT, 3523, crisis intervention, med training support, skills training individual, and PSR independent living. When it comes to when a recovery plan is completed, it is based on the level of care, division, or specific program requirements. When authorization, example 90, 180, or 365 days, or program TACOMI HHSC 1115 waiver changes, recovery plan type should be updated to match. Email help desk to close the existing plan and build the new recovery plan type to match the authorization period. For children, it is completed every 90 days regardless of program. The CBH outpatient unit utilizes the CBH recovery plan. TACOMI children use the TACOMI Child Family Case Plan. Adult behavioral health, if there's a level of care of 1S, 2, 3, or 4, the 180-day recovery plan is used. 1M, the 365-day recovery plan. Level of care 5, adult TACOMI, 90-day ABH recovery plan. And if there's non-TRR services provided, the recovery services plan is utilized. There are 3 types of recovery plans that are used. The recovery plan is completed with the client as their first recovery plan. It is built from scratch using the facets of the ANDS and CANS. Recovery plan revision is completed if there's a change to, such as an addition or removal of any needs, goals, or other factors identified by the consumer, LAR, or a treatment team. An update ANDS or CANS completed, or a change based on emerging needs that are identified within the course of treatment. Then the last type of plan is the recovery plan review. This is the formal review process, usually time-based, in which the entirety of the recovery plan is discussed with the client to determine if needs are being met, if treatment is on target, and if anything needs to be changed, added, or deleted. Recovery plan reviews are often completed with a new ANDS or CANS. To launch a recovery plan, you will first open your consumer, and then left-click once on New Treatment Plan, as shown by the red box in the image to the right. Launch the appropriate plan based on the level of care, division, or specific program requirements. Next, you must choose the start date of the recovery plan. This date must be the date the consumer was seen by you. Review the calendar, ensuring you are in the correct month, as shown by the pink box in the image to the right. Left-click twice on the date of the plan. In this example, March 23, 2020, as highlighted by the green box. After selecting the date, review the summary screen to verify the type of recovery plan, begin date, and end date. If any date changes are required, left-click once on Previous, as shown by the orange box in the image to the right. If the wrong type of recovery plan was launched, left-click once on Close Panel, blue box. If all items are correct, left-click once on Next. Buttons on the recovery plan include Refresh, which refreshes the plan to the last save point, Perform Force Validation, reviews the validations in the Validations tab to show the most up-to-date validations. Delete or Void allows removal of the plan if there are no progress notes attached. If there are progress notes attached to the plan, and you will need to complete and final approve the plan with the individual at the next available appointment. The Final Approve button is used to finalize the recovery plan. Is required, or else progress notes cannot be attached to the recovery plan. Modify dates is utilized by the clinical applications administrators to modify the start and end dates of the plan. Please contact Help Desk if dates need to be changed for client discharge or if the start date is incorrect. The Revise button is chosen to complete a recovery plan revision when a change is required in the plan prior to its end date. The Review button is used to complete a recovery plan review when the plan is approaching its end date. It's completed along with a new ANSA or CANS. The Print button is chosen when you want to print the plan to provide to the client after it is final approved. Add signature is utilized if additional signatures are required to be added and completed on the plan. Close panel is chosen once you're completed with the plan and final approved. You will then choose Close Panel to close the recovery plan. You can also use the Close Panel to close the recovery plan at any time. No changes to the recovery plan will be lost. Next, we're going to talk about the panes, which are located within the green box in the image to the right. The first tab is Progress Notes. This lists all progress notes that are attached to the recovery plan. Progress notes can only be attached after recovery plan is final approved. Planning tiers are the recovery plan tiers that are built and updated for the consumer. They are located on this tab. The Signatures tab includes all signatures, whether pending or completed. It provides it to you there as a list. The Validations window at the bottom lists all pending items within the recovery plan. All signature validations must be completed after all the planning tiers are added and the recovery plan agreement is final approved. The Severity column provides the severity of the validations within your window. However, despite if it's critical or warning, these all items must be completed to allow final approval of the recovery plan. The pain column specifies which pain the validation is from. The validation column specifies what requires completion. The description column specifies where the validation is requiring correction. You can left-click once on the highlighted item within this column to resolve the validation. The end date, which is shown by the pink box at the top right, is the end date of the recovery plan. Depending on the type, this is either 90, 180, or 365 days after the start of the recovery plan. The recovery plan agreement is a separate pane within the recovery plan. Left-click on once to view the recovery plan agreement. The agreement provides details of the consumer's participation in development of the recovery plan, agreement between the consumer and care manager for appointments, how often the plan will be reviewed, discharge criteria, individual family LAR satisfaction with services and involvement in the plan, and if the individual was given a copy of their recovery plan. When you right-click within the Planning Tiers tab, you're able to choose from the list of options. These include Planning Tier Detail, which you select to open the details of the planning tier. Display Narrative allows the planning tier narrative to be reviewed without opening up the planning tier. Move Up, when permitted, allows chosen tier to be moved above another tier. Move down, when permitted, allows chosen tier to be moved below another tier. Delete allows the tier to be removed. However, once deleted, the tier cannot be brought back. Add strength, need, etc. with detail. It allows the addition of one planning tier at a time. Add multiple strengths, needs, allows the addition of multiple planning tiers of the same type at once. Remove multiple strengths, needs, allows the removal of multiple planning tiers of the same type at once. The planning tier detail opens whenever you're working on your strength, need, goal, apply strength, objective, or intervention. The buttons located there include Billing Pro Forma, which is not used, Refresh, which refreshes your tier detail to the last save point, Delete allows deletion of the planning tier, but once removed you cannot undo, Save and Close saves and closes the planning tier. The Save button saves but does not close the planning tier. Previous allows you to move up the planning tier without having to close the window and open up to another tier. Next allows you to move down to the next planning tier below the planning tier you're working on, so you don't have to close the window and open up the next planning tier through that method. And Close panel closes the plan for this tier. If selected, all changes made will be lost. So when it comes to the actual recovery plan, you can use Close panel and it will complete a save. However, when it comes to the planning tier detail, you have to utilize that Save and Close button or the information that you are working on will be lost. Unlike your other tiers, when you are completing your intervention, there are some items that are located on there that are not located on any other tier. This includes the Export to Other Interventions and Add to Other Objectives buttons. The Export to Other Interventions is used to copy the planning tier intervention, service detail, and narrative of one intervention to another intervention of the same service code type. The other intervention must already be added to the chosen objective for this process to work. Add to Other Objectives is used to add interventions already located under one planning tier until another. This will add the intervention and all detail written to the new intervention. Still take the time to review and revise the information according to the need, goal, and objective under review. For planning tier, in this field, you would choose either the appropriate need, strength, or apply strength from the ands or cans, or available goal, objective, or intervention tier present that is suitable in regards to the assessment you are having with the consumer at that time. The established date is the date the tier was added to the recovery plan. Status date is the date the status was rendered. Target date, the end date of the plan, can be seen on the recovery plan title bar. Next, the status. There are various statuses available. Deferred and referred are not used. Active is used when the tier will be actively worked on during that time period until the target date. Inactive, the item can either not be worked on or the consumer does not wish to work on it at this time, or resolved, the tier is resolved and no longer being worked on with the consumer. Within interventions, we have additional fields of frequency, which is how often the service will be provided to the consumer, quantity, during the recovery plan duration, how many services should be completed with the consumer, and duration, how long the service will be provided to the consumer each time you are meeting with them. This can be a guesstimation just because you may not know entirely what duration will be for each time you see the consumer. Anticipated start. This is the anticipated start date of the services for this consumer. Unit, the unit in which the service shall be provided at. Subunit, the subunit in which the service shall be provided at. And server, the server who will be providing that service for that consumer during the duration of the recovery plan. The narrative, which is shown by the green box in the image to the right, is a description of the service provided. Standard text options, which is from the drop-down within this narrative box, is a template used in the planning tier narrative to review objectives in a recovery plan review. Staff place a template into the objective and answer the questions to state the status of the objective. In regards to the current treatment plan tab, after completion of the recovery plan, you can view it within this tab. If you do not see the recovery plan on this tab, then left-click once where it says Current Treatment Plan and select Expanded Mode. You will then be able to visualize the recovery plan. The recovery plan must be final approved to allow for a progress note to be attached to the plan. If a recovery plan contains one or more final approved progress notes, it cannot be removed as the records attached are finalized. You will need to complete the recovery plan with the consumer and final approve. When a client is discharged from services, please contact Help Desk to close the recovery plan to the discharge date. After completion of the planning tiers, the recovery agreement and signatures, the recovery plan is then final approved. If there's a change required to the recovery plan prior to its end date, a recovery plan revision requires completion when there's the addition or removal of any needs, goals, or other factors identified by the consumer, LAR, or treatment team at any time. Update ANS or CANs completed, and the authorization date is prior to the current recovery plan end date to match the plan's interventions to the authorized level of care. A change based on emerging needs that are identified within the course of treatment. To complete, open the active recovery plan and choose the Revise button. After the end of a recovery plan, if the authorization is extended past the end date, then a recovery plan review is completed. The recovery plan review contains the planning tiers from the recovery plan. Recovery plan reviews are often completed with a new answer CANS. To complete, open the active recovery plan and choose the Review button. For progress notes associated with the recovery plan, a multi-service progress note must be completed. To select the recovery plan, go to Related Treatment Plan, left-click once on the plus sign, which is highlighted by the orange box in the image below, and choose the appropriate plan from the list. If the recovery plan is not present, then go to the Current Treatment Plan tab to verify it is file approved and available for the date of service. Within the multi-service progress note, you will left-click once on the applicable interventions as shown by the light green box highlighted below. After selection of the applicable interventions, the available objectives will then appear. Then left-click once on the applicable objectives as shown highlighted in the lavender box below. If chosen, a green box will appear next to the selection. To unselect all objectives, you would left-click once on the open square box as shown by the yellow box below. When relating progress note to recovery plan, progress note will include planning tier that was addressed for provided service once selected. In conclusion, the recovery plan is a framework designed to guide the treatment process. The individual is directly involved in the plan and is centered on the client's input, as well as that of their legally authorized representative. It consists of strengths, needs, goals, applied strengths, objectives, and interventions. Strengths, needs, and applied strengths come from the ANS or CANs. Only a multi-service progress note can be attached to a recovery plan. Types of recovery plans include recovery plan, which is the first recovery plan with a consumer and is built from scratch from the ANS or CANs. Recovery plan revision, changed to recovery plan prior to its end date. And recovery plan review, which is a formal review process of the recovery plan. The recovery plan chosen is dependent on the level of care and type of service. When the level of care, LOC, changes, depending on the level of care, the recovery plan may need to be changed and all interventions updated to the appropriate level of care. For any recovery plan date modifications or closures due to the type or discharge from service or any other needs of assistance, please contact us at Help Desk for completion.